Welcome back to the deep dive. We all knew this day was coming eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
For over a decade, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, has been this almost ghostly figure.
Right, the rumors of kidney failure?
Exactly. The kidney failure rumors, the reports of his death popping up every 6 months, the constant speculation about where he was hiding. But looking at the footage coming out of Jalisco over the last 24 hours, the burning buses, the code red alerts, it feels different this time.
It is different. The ghost is actually gone.
Yeah.
And, it's the end of an era. And I don't say that lightly at all. Yesterday, Sunday, February 22nd, 2026. It marks a massive pivot point for the global drug trade.
Because we aren't just talking about a criminal getting caught here.
No, we are talking about the architect of the super cartel model finally being removed from the board. El Mencho and the Cartel de Jalisco New Generación, the CJNG.
And that's really the mission for today's deep dive, because the immediate reaction, the chaos we're seeing on the ground right now, it speaks to just how massive this power vacuum is.
It's completely unprecedented.
I've been tracking the live feeds from Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta this morning, and it looks like a war zone. You have tourists barricaded in hotel ballrooms.
The whole region is paralyzed.
Flights diverted. It's total paralysis. So, I want to unpack who this man was, how he built an empire that infiltrated 35 U.S. states, and why his death might actually make things more dangerous.
Which is the terrifying part.
All right. But let's start with the operation itself. What exactly happened yesterday in Tapalpa?
So it was a highly coordinated hit. Mexican special forces, backed by U.S. intelligence, targeted a thief house in Tapalpa, Jalisco.
And this wasn't a clean movie-style raid where he just surrenders.
Not at all. It was incredibly violent. 4 CJNG members were killed on site, and 3 Army personnel were injured. But the key detail here, and this demythologizes him a bit, is that Mencho didn't die instantly in a blaze of glory.
He was captured alive, right?
He was injured in the initial clashes, and the reports state he was being transported to Mexico City.
Probably for emergency treatment or to be paraded for the camera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he died in transit. He essentially bled out while in custody.
Wow. The man who pioneered weaponized drones dying in the back of a transport vehicle?
Yeah, it's a stark contrast to his reputation.
Yeah.
But the cartel's response was immediate. The CJNG triggered what they call narco bloqueos.
The blockades. And I think people miss the strategic logic here. When you see cars on fire, you think anarchy. But it's a signaling mechanism.
It's highly rehearsed leverage. They torch buses to prevent military reinforcements from reaching the operation site.
But it's also psychological warfare.
Exactly. It's against the civilian population. They attacked security forces in 8 different states almost simultaneously yesterday.
8 states.
At once.
Yes. That requires a level of command and control that most standing armies would envy.
And the impact is just staggering. We are seeing plumes of smoke over Guadalajara today, which, by the way, is a World Cup host city. Right, the optics for the Mexican government are terrible.
And the tourist impact, thousands trapped in Puerto Vallarta. United, American, Air Canada, they all canceled flights.
I saw a Delta flight heading to Guadalajara actually had to divert to Austin, Texas.
Austin. Just to get out of the airspace. So how are the officials handling this?
It's a lot of damage control. The U.S. State Department issued immediate shelter-in-place warnings. They're telling Americans in Jalisco, Tamaulipas, and Michoacan to just hide.
But the Mexican president is taking a different tone.
Yeah, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo is on social media urging calm. She's claiming activities are normal in most of the country.
Which feels like a huge disconnect from the burning buses on our screens.
It is. But politically, she needs this to be a victory. She needs to show her administration can take down a high-value target.
Without direct U.S. intervention on the ground.
Right. But if the violence in Guadalajara spirals, that victory turns into a massive liability.
To really understand why the violence is so intense, though, we have to look at what El Mencho actually built.
We do.
Because I was reading through the background dossier provided for this deep dive, and his origin story, it's honestly one of the most unlikely corporate success stories you'll ever read.
If you strip away the morality, absolutely.
Because most people assume these kingpins are born into it, like the Nepo babies of the narco world.
Right, like the Sinaloa cartel families.
Yeah.
But Mencho was a nobody. He was born in 1966 in Aguililla, Michoacan.
The avocado capital.
Exactly. And he dropped out of school in the 6th grade to pick avocados in the fields.
And then he did what a lot of people in that region do. He looked north.
He tried the immigrant path. He crossed into the U.S. illegally at least 3 times.
There's actually a booking photo of him, right?
Yeah, from 1986 in San Francisco. He was 19 years old, wearing a hoodie, looking completely unremarkable. He got busted for dealing, but he was a failed small-time dealer.
That's the wild part. The what-if moment. He gets deported back to Mexico and he pivots.
He pivots straight into law enforcement.
Which is just staggering irony.
He joins the police force in Tomatlan, Jalisco. The future leader of the most violent cartel in history spent time wearing a badge.
But it was an education for him.
A crucial one. He learned how the state operates, how police communications work, how to bribe effectively, and who to bribe.
So he takes that knowledge, leaves the police, and joins the Mencho cartel as a sicario and assassin.
He works his way up.
Yeah.
And the real turning point is around 2008, 2009. The leaders of the Mencho cartel get arrested. Mencho expects to inherit the throne.
Because he was the top lieutenant.
Right. But he was snubbed. The remaining bosses thought he was too aggressive, too volatile.
Huge mistake on their part.
A fatal mistake. Mencho didn't just walk away. He launched a violent, hostile takeover against his own bosses.
And he emerges victorious in 2011 to found the CJNG.
Yes. And he branded them completely differently from the old guard.
This is where we see the rapid expansion. The sources note how different CJNG is from, say, the Sinaloa cartel.
Sinaloa operates more like a federation, a board of directors. Mencho built CJNG as a rigid, top-down military hierarchy.
And they are everywhere now, almost all 32 Mexican states.
And global. 5,000 members on every continent except Antarctica.
That is a staggering footprint. But the militarization is what really sets them apart. They operate like a paramilitary force, not a street gang.
Oh, absolutely. The benchmark for this is still the 2015 incident.
Where they shot down the military helicopter.
Right. A Mexican military helicopter. CJNG operatives shot it down with a Russian-made RPG.
That is straight-up warfare.
It signaled they weren't afraid to engage the state directly. And they've kept innovating since then.
The sources mention the drones.
Yes, taking commercial drones, strapping C4 explosives to them, and dropping them on rival camps or police stations. Surveillance turned into weaponry.
And the monsters, too.
The improvised armored vehicles, yeah. It's the industrialization of violence.
And we have to talk about the brutality, because it's a core part of their strategy. The psychological warfare.
It's performative. The kidnappings, the torture.
The cannibalism. Hanging bodies from bridges.
It's marketing for them. If your brand is pure terror, you don't have to fight for every inch of territory.
Yeah.
Rivals just flee.
Your reputation does the heavy lifting. And that reputation has allowed them to infiltrate deep into the United States.
Which is where this becomes a domestic issue for us.
Exactly. I think a lot of you listening might hear Jalisco Cartel and think, well, this is a border problem. Texas, Arizona.
But it's not.
No. The Courier Journal investigation laid this out perfectly. They found CJNG operations in 35 U.S. states and Puerto Rico.
And they aren't just in major distribution hubs like Chicago or Los Angeles.
They target small-town USA.
Right. Places that don't have the infrastructure to fight them.
Why is that? Why set up shop in a quiet town in Virginia instead of a major city?
It's about avoidance. A small-town sheriff's department isn't equipped to unravel a massive international money laundering scheme.
So they can fly under the radar.
Exactly. They embed themselves. They trap struggling business owners in debt. They terrify local immigrants who are too scared to go to the police.
Yeah.
They're parasitic.
And the product flowing north through this network is America's deadliest illicit drug.
Fentanyl.
Used to be meth and cocaine, but now it's all about fentanyl.
It's easier to transport, incredibly potent, and infinitely more profitable. 96% of the fentanyl seized in the U.S. is caught at the southwest border.
And Mencho was essentially the CEO of that supply chain.
He was. But this trade is a two-way street.
Right. Drugs go north, cash comes south. But there's something else flowing south, which the sources call the Iron River.
This is the piece that U.S. policymakers struggle with immensely. The Iron River of guns.
Between 200,000 and 500,000 guns trafficked from the U.S. to Mexico every single year.
500,000 weapons.
I really want to break down how that happens mechanically, because it's not like the cartel is ordering sniper rifles online and having them shipped to Jalisco.
No, they rely on intermediaries right here in the U.S.
How does that work?
It's a straw purchasing network. The cartel finds someone with a clean criminal record, a U.S. citizen, and pays them a few $100.
So this person walks into a regular gun store in Arizona or Texas.
Exactly. They buy a military-grade weapon, like a Barrett 50 caliber rifle or some AR-15s. They fill out the paperwork legally.
Then what?
They walk out to the parking lot, hand the guns off to a cartel broker, get their cash, and leave.
And then the weapons head south.
They get broken down, hidden in gas tanks, inside spare tires, or deep in the chassis of commercial trucks heading into Mexico.
Because the checks going south are way less stringent than the checks coming north.
Much less. And within 48 hours, that 50 caliber rifle from a strip mall in Texas is in the hands of a CJNG Sicario.
And those 50 cals are the exact guns that can punch through police armor or shoot down helicopters.
It's a deadly cycle. The U.S. demand for drugs funds the cartel, and the lax U.S. gun laws arm them.
Which is why the U.S. put a $15 million bounty on Mencho's head, one of the highest ever.
He was the linchpin of that entire Iron River ecosystem.
So now that linchpin is gone, the bounty is void. And this brings us to the so what of the whole situation, the implications of this power vacuum.
This is where things get really concerning.
Right, because we've seen this movie before. We caught El Chapo in 2016. We caught El Mayo in 2024.
And did the violence stop?
No. So does killing the kingpin actually dismantle the kingdom?
History strongly suggests it doesn't. We're looking at the Hydra effect.
When you cut off the head, 2 more grow back.
Exactly. The cartel doesn't just disappear. The infrastructure, the smuggling routes, the corrupt politicians, the weapon stockpiles, all that still exists.
But now there's no undisputed leader.
Right, so the cartel fragments, you have internal battles for control.
And that usually leads to a spike in violence.
Always. Because CJNG has transitioned in recent years. They aren't just moving drugs anymore. They're focused on territorial control.
The extortion, the kidnappings.
They tax the avocado farmers in Michoacan. They extort local businesses. To do that, they have to physically hold the ground.
So without Mencho keeping the factions united, these regional bosses are going to turn on each other to keep their lucrative territories.
The atomization of the cartel. Instead of one unified super cartel, you might get 20 smaller, warring factions fighting over the plazas.
And because they are smaller and have less drug revenue, they make up for it by leaning harder into extorting civilians.
It's a nightmare scenario for the local population.
And it creates a very tense geopolitical situation. We have to look at the dynamic right now between U.S. President Donald Trump and Mexican President Sheinbaum.
It is incredibly volatile right now.
Because Trump has been very vocal about this. He's threatened to hit cartels on Mexican soil.
Which is a massive escalation.
And Sheinbaum has firmly pushed back. The sources note she explicitly said U.S. troops are not on the table.
Right. So Mencho's death acts as a short-term political win for Sheinbaum.
It gives her leverage.
Exactly. She can go to Washington and say, look, our forces handled this. We took down the most wanted man in North America. We don't need U.S. military intervention. We just need intelligence cooperation.
But that leverage only lasts as long as she can keep the country stable. If the Hydra effect takes hold and Guadalajara stays on fire,
then that diplomatic win evaporates instantly.
It does. It really does. So, to summarize where we are, we've watched a 6th grade dropout from the avocado fields build a global paramilitary force.
A warlord who fundamentally changed the drug trade.
And now his death has created a chaotic power vacuum that's diverting international flights, impacting small-town America, and straining international diplomacy.
It's a massive ripple effect.
It is, and I want to leave everyone listening with a final thought to mull over. We always view the death or capture of a kingpin as the end of the story. The villain is defeated.
The neat Hollywood ending.
Right. But considering the iron river of weapons constantly flowing south and the insatiable demand for fentanyl constantly flowing north, have we actually dismantled the machine here, or did we just forcefully change the driver?
The machine is still running perfectly.
The machine is still running. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the fall of El Mencho. Thanks for joining us as we unpacked the sources today.
Stay